call the regular City Commission meeting of Tuesday, September 9th, 2014 to order. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amy, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Foreman?
Here.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Here.
Commissioner Perry?
Here.
Commissioner Scott?
Here.
Mayor Metzger?
Here. First item is consideration of the following minutes. The public hearing and zoning board of appeals meeting held Tuesday, July 29th, 2014, and the regular city commission meeting held Tuesday, August 12th, 2014. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mayor, I move the minutes of the public hearing and zoning board of appeals meeting Tuesday, July 29th, 2014, and the regular city commission meeting held Tuesday, August 12th, 2014 be approved as recommended.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to vote.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. The next item is consideration of the monthly disbursement report.
Payroll and accounts payable was provided to all of you prior to the meeting. Payroll for the month was $70,851.62. Accounts payable was $1,141,272.15, of which $754,605.39 were in tax liabilities.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the disbursement report?
Mayor, I move the August 2014 distribution report be approved as listed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Okay, now we have to take a vote, please.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes?
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. The next item is public discussion, items not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the room? Please come forth and give us your name and address, please.
Leslie Jones, 19 Fairwood. I just wanted to remind people that next Thursday on the 18th, there's going to be an Earth Friendly Landscapes program that's going to be presented by Lillian Dean of SACWA. They're going to talk about what makes healthy soil, how to do composting, rainwater recycling, rain barrels and such, and just other topics pertaining to healthy yards. So we invite everybody. If anybody needs any more information or flyers, please feel free. I've got some more. So
I know we have flyers in the front office.
yeah,
as well.
and in the rest.
Direct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items not on the agenda? It's quite a face.
Hello. I'm Carolyn Coe. I live at 43 Fairwood. This is only the second time I've been to this August body, and the first experience was not the best. So I'm hoping that precedent wasn't set. But I received the Ridger a while back, and actually didn't look at the back page until just the day before yesterday, and see that there's the third annual antique show and sale, and it's on Yom Kippur. I'm really, really disturbed, and I wonder how city-sponsored events can get on a calendar, and if the commissioners, if you approve the calendar, who sees the calendar. I think maybe beyond Jewish holidays, there's certainly others besides Christian holidays that we have to be sensitive to. The fact that there may be signs out on Woodward with thousands of people going by announcing that we are so ignorant here that we don't know that this is a major religious observation for thousands of people, particularly not only this community, but we have a Jewish community north of us, 2 blocks. It's astounding to me that this could happen, and I brought a calendar for 2015 and marked, Ramadan is marked. Yeah, Italian Family Day is not. But, certainly Jewish, there's, two major Jewish holidays, Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. Passover is in there too, but those are the two biggies. And it seems to me that we could be sensitive enough that we could honor those and honor our citizens who happen to be follow that faith. So I just, what is the process for putting things on the calendar? How is it checked? I mean, it seems like a really, really simple thing to me, and I'm astounded. So.
Well, I want you to know, I did bring in a calendar that Jody and I prepared the other day. So for 2015.
Yeah,
we
you
will
have
be-
two.
There we go, okay, two.
So I don't know who would like this, but you're welcome to have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay. And we may address it a little bit later as well, so just want you to know. The next item is consideration of the report by Mr. Roy Rose, Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick regarding the August 11, 2014 storm and the performance of the regional sewer system. Something that I know a lot of people are very interested in.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I thought sometimes it works well to pictures worth 1,000 words, so we put together this kind of little PowerPoint presentation to help assist you as we go through this. Basically, I had kind of an outline of what I want to go through, talk about the sewer system, background, the George W. Kuntz, which used to be called the 12 Towns, was renamed that, and actually 12 Towns is 14 communities instead of 12. We'll talk about the city sewer system, Pleasant Ridge sewer system, the background of that, Pleasant Ridge recent project completion, the August 11th rain event, and then what can homeowners do to help themselves or possibly do to protect themselves in the future. City Pleasant Ridge is serviced by a combined sewer system, which is both the sanitary and the storm sewer system go through the same pipe. So the water that runs off the streets goes in the same pipe that the household sanitary sewer systems are connected to. And from there they discharge into a regional system, which eventually gets to the George W. Kuhn Drainage District and the retention treatment facility. Dry weather flows is sent down to the city of Detroit from that facility instead of going through the facility, and wet weather flows are diverted to the facility for primary treatment with permitted overflow to the Red Run drain if necessary. A lot of times they store it and ship it, and then as the rain water or the water decreases, then they'll allow it to send it all down to the city of Detroit for treatment. The GWK is a pollution control facility. They have screening out of sanitary trash and other solids and provides disinfection or uses chlorination before discharging the Red Run drain. The facility is made up of two big chambers. They're almost a mile apiece in length. As water reaches that it cannot send it down to Detroit, the first chamber is used strictly as a storage facility. And then as that chamber reaches capacity, then it flows into the second chamber over what they call a weir wall that's built so high, and as it goes over the top of the weir wall, it's chlorinated. And then they have what they call contact time for the chlorine to take effect, and that's when it's flowing through the second chamber. And once that second chamber fills up to an elevation, then it flows over another weir wall where it's already treated, and it flows into the Red Run drain. The combination of the two chambers have about 124 million gallons of storage capacity. This was a project that there was, I can't remember the exact number, but there was millions, tens of millions, I think it was over $130 million was spent on this village upgrade over the last 10 years. It can handle a peak flow of about 3.1 million gallons per minute or 7,000 cubic feet per second. This kind of gives you a picture of the drainage district. It consists of, like I said, 14 communities throughout the district. I have a little bit better. This is another map that indicates the district, and this map also shows where the major pipelines are. And as you can see, here's Pleasant Ridge right here. There's basically 3 pipelines. One goes this way and then goes up to the facility. The facility's up there. There's another pipeline that goes up this direction, comes over and goes to the facility. And then there's a third pipeline that comes over here and it flows on the same route, which eventually gets over to the facility. This shows the facility as it exists as a storage. As I said, this is approximately 2 miles long, 2.1 miles. It's 66 feet wide, and the storage about 25 foot of depth in storage for the facility. And once again, as I said, Pleasant Ridge has 3 pipelines. One goes this direction. There's another one that goes up here, and then there's a pipe that connects over to here that then also flows into the facility, or into the, eventually gets to the facility. This is kind of a diagram of the facility as the pipes come in from the various directions to here. They all flow into this chamber, into this facility, and eventually it flows out, if need to, and dumps into the Red Run drain. Now this is the pipelines that are in Pleasant Ridge. As you can see, in each street there's one pipe, as I talked about earlier, that contains both all the household service leads, that has both the sanitary and it also has the footing drains are connected to the same pipe. Also there is the streets that are connected, the catch basins in the streets. And one of the things that we've done over the course of time, and this is the way that it's designed, is those street catch basins have restricted covers on it. And part of the reason that the restricted covers are there is the pipes don't have the capacity to handle all the household waste, the footing drains, and the streets. If we open up those grates, it would overwhelm, that would start backing up in a home. So the intent of it is to design to allow retention of the stormwater, hold that back by restricting it, holding it back on the streets to allow it to slowly go into the system instead of flowing in at a rapid rate and backing up into homeowners' basements. This map here shows you all the street projects that we have worked on since 1995. And as you can see, everything that's in yellow, or I guess yellow or green, whichever way you want to look at it, is the streets that we have worked on, including the alleys along Woodward. We worked on those, and as we were working on each one of these projects, we televised and we cleaned all the sewers. We looked at any, we could take the cameras and they tilt and we could look up the leads. If there was problems in the leads, we'd try to correct those problems or make the homeowners aware of those problems. And so over the course, like I said, since almost 20 years, this is the work that's done. There's still a few streets that are indicated in blue that have not been worked on, but every other one of the streets, including Cambridge, that's being worked on right now, have all been worked on. So we know that as we've gone through, we try to make any corrections there are to the system, or we have made corrections to make sure that the sewage is flowing good here in the city. I will talk a little bit about the August 11th rainfall. This is a weather map that of that event that's from radar. And as you can see, here sits Pleasant Ridge right in here. And you can see that the rainfall was between 4 and 5 inches. But also, there's a couple of spots that are nearby where the rainfall was somewhere between 5 and 7 inches. And once again, this is a weather radar map. It's not 100% accurate, but it gives you an idea that the rain was, the more intense was down in this area and was working its way up this way. We also looked at a couple of weather sites that we could find that had rain gauges. And this map indicates that, for example, over here, we had 5.7 inches of rain, or almost 5 inches in 6 hours. We had 4.1 inches over here in 6 hours, 4.24 inches in 6 hours. So there was a lot of intense rain during that rain event. This is from a NOAA site, which is a National Weather Atlas that provides you with the frequency of how much it rains. So for example, we were looking at some that were at 6 hours. If you read across, this tells you how many inches of rain in 6 hours. Well, here's 4.21, and that relates to the occurrence should only happen once in 100 years. If you continue across, you get 4.75 once in 200 years. If you can cross 5.5 once in every 500 years. So statistically, this is a rain event, talking with Oakland County Water Resource Commission and talking with other engineers, it's around what we all classify as somewhere around a 300-year event. In other words, statistically, and Mary, you should understand this more than anybody else, statistically, this should only happen once in every 300 years.
What's tomorrow's?
It's one job you can have that you can be wrong all the time and still have a job, unfortunately. When the sewers were designed back when they started off with, a lot of places they had a sanitary sewer and they had ditches. And then as progress occurred, especially after World War II, the ditches were filled in, streets were paved, they then tied those into the sanitary systems. These sewers were designed for, and this was what we call 10-state standards. There's 10 states that Michigan's part of that designed these sewers for a 10-year event, a 1-hour 10-year event. And if we look up there once again at a 1-hour 10-year event, which is 60 minutes, you would say that you should have about 1.69 inches. Well, as I showed you earlier, we had more than double that in 6 hours. So it's a lot more rain than what we can hold. Now we'll talk a little bit about the system performance and how it reacted. Here's a map of Pleasant Ridge that shows the areas of flooding. As I talked about earlier, here's one of the outlets that goes, it's a siphon that goes underneath I-696. And what a siphon is, when I-696 was built, the sewers were already there. Well, if they built the I-696, it would have ran into the sewer. So what they did is they lowered the sewer down and they allowed the water pressure to force it up on the other sides. So, but that siphon serviced the majority of this area in here. As you can see, there was a couple homes in here, a couple along here. There's a bank of them right there, but for the most part, that area wasn't too well affected. As I talked about earlier, there's another outlet that goes this way, and that basically services all the homes along this street. And that was a problem. That's definitely a problem area. And then over in here, there's a third outlet that's up here that heads to the east. And there's a main trunk sewer that goes down through here, and it seems like this whole area in this trunk sewer, there was a lot of home flooding in there. One of the things we want to take a better look at is to see where the flooding occurred based on flooding, how that relates to elevations, because I suspect, and I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect at one time this may have been many, many, many years ago, like a low spot where there was an open drain or ditch, in which case that's where the flows that may occur up here flow this way, and these are the low people down at this point. But we're going to do a little bit of more digging and research and trying to come up with some better ideas on that. In discussions with Oakland County the way that their system operates is, as I talked about earlier, as the normal dry weather and even light rain weather flows, the system takes it, it sends it down to Detroit for treatment. As the system, as more rain intensity increases, that system can't handle it, or they can't pump enough or send enough down to Detroit, then they start filling up the retention basin in the first chamber. As that intensity keeps up and the second chamber starts filling up, what would happen on this event, the Red Run drain had exceeded capacity that I have not seen before. And actually the water from Red Run drain was backing up into the system over the top of their second weir wall. So they were losing storage capacity and they didn't have any place to get their flows to flow out of. As the Red Run drain went down, they continued to pump, but all this time they're still sending as much as they can down to the city of Detroit. So they optimize their system to its capacity, but once again, as I talked about the rainfall intensity, the radar, it well exceeded any capacity that any system could handle or was designed for. In fact, most of the facilities, now the facility itself, the storage facility, is designed once again for a 1 hour, 10-year event. And once again, as I showed you on the chart there about the rainfall, we well exceeded that. The new criteria now that's been in place is a 25-year, 24-hour event that we have to design for in today's standards. So they upped it, the MDEQ has upped it a little bit to try to see if we can increase our capacity and our storage volumes. But this is a new regulation that has occurred over the last few years. What can I as a homeowner do for myself? Well, one of the things that happens is you can have a backflow preventer installed in your home. As the water in the catch basin, the combined sewer reaches this point, without a backflow preventer, as it backs up your sewer lead, it floods your basement. With a backflow preventer, the water as it pumps up, the backflow preventer allows it from backing up in your basement, so it can reach all the way up in here and it still won't back up in your basement. As I talked about earlier, in most of the homes, they have the footing drains are also tied into that lead, so this backflow preventer has to be at a point that's outside of where, or normally they have to dig a hole in the basement. This happens to be a picture of it's a very nice backflow preventer device that it has a cap on there that you can screw off and you can clean it out, but it's a very good one. I talked to a local plumber. He said he's been installing these for years. He said normally, he says they charge somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500 to install one of these. He said he had a home where he had to put two of them in just the way it was configured, and he said it was somewhere around less than $3,000 to install two of them. But that was just one plumber I talked to that happens to have these type of products that he sells. In conclusion, the systems have operated to the best of their abilities. They maximized everything. There hasn't been a problem with the city of Pleasant Ridge sewers. As I talked about earlier, we have been going through and cleaning these sewers as we go forward to make sure that there isn't problems. We even did the ones that are in the alleys to make sure that there isn't a problem there. So unfortunately, it's hard to say this, but unfortunately it was an act of God that caused this problem. And with that, I'll answer any questions anyone has.
Guess I'm gonna ask a question. Come on. Oh, sure.
Here for a minute.
It's probably not related. Oh, it is related. Fairwood, Robbie, Fairwood. Thank you. So since that whole east side flooded and we had the Reichel chemical plant down there, do we need to worry about any contaminants that might have bubbled up during this 500-year, 300-year event? Do we need to test the soils again?
I can speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
Because, do I go up? Back when the Reichel site was capped, there's a slurry wall that was installed around the site that keeps groundwater flow from flowing out. So it should be okay.
should be okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Hi, Hans Lundstrom, 45 Maywood. We have a drain right in front of our house. Every time it rains, our front lawn gets flooded. Whether it's half an inch or an inch, the drains get plugged and it comes up over the curb at least 10 feet. When we did the road repair, it seems to have gotten worse. I don't know why that would be the case even before. I don't know if it's the pitch of the roads, how they handled it, but we seem to collect even more water. And the question is, I saw you had your NOAA report, and there was, every 5 years, it looked like it was 1.5 inches of rain. Can that actually, our system actually handle that? Because 1.5 inches times 6 is kind of in the range of where we're looking at a foot 6 hour.
In answering your question is, I can take a look at that, but the one thing that may have happened is, and I don't know what was there prior to it, but there might have been a different cover on that structure that allowed more water to get through than what we did when we went back and rebuilt the street. Because we're consistently trying to do this to try to prevent too much water getting in the system that creates the basement flood backup.
Right.
And as far as that goes, even if we were to open the grates up that they could handle the flow for, let's say, a 1 year or 2 year storm, the system as a whole, I don't believe that there's the capacity to try to push it through there. And I wouldn't want to try to challenge it, because how do you say, well, geez, we're only going to have the small storm, so we'll put these covers on, and then tomorrow we have a bigger storm and we have to put different covers on. So we just consistently put these covers on. As I say, it's unfortunate, but when a combined system, we work in a lot of communities that have a combined system, and this is the only way to protect the homes from getting the surge of water to come in to back up into the basements.
So you're feeling confident that a 1 hour storm at 1.5 inches or 2 inches, which is a more frequent event than a 6 hour storm, is able to be handled by the pumps?
And let me make it, Pleasant Ridge in itself does not have any pumps. Everything flows by gravity out of here. So the only pumps that there are, and actually it's a gravity connection where it connects and goes to the Detroit system. Yes, they're all sized to handle that, and that should not be a problem.
Thank you.
And I think one of the biggest concerns has been residents trying to understand that flooding.
Yes.
The street flooding that they see over and over again, everybody running out trying to clean the drains and concerned about that, and getting that kind of confused with the flooding in basements and everything else.
Yeah.
So,
The other problem, unfortunately, is with the restricted covers is just like you say, debris, in particular in the fall when the leaves are falling, creates some problems. So you have to keep those cleaned off as best you can to allow the water as much as we were allowing to go into the system. Otherwise, it takes a lot longer to get out of the system. But like I said, we've had places where people have gone out and picked the cover up and let it in, and the next thing, 3 of their neighbors are complaining because they had a sewer backup in their homes. Hasn't happened here in Pleasant Ridge, but in other communities where we work, we've seen that happen in the past.
but I think that's been a concern. People don't understand that you're restricting the flow just to make sure that pressure doesn't push it up.
Yeah, and like I said, there isn't the capacity, so you got to store it someplace,
Right.
and that's why we say it's better to store it on the street than it is to store it in people's basements. We had a project that we did many years ago, and people are probably familiar with it. It's called the Nautical Mile over in St. Clair Shores, and when we paved that, we had high lake levels. That was back in '97, and we had the bulkhead, the outlet, which happened to be a 9x9 square box coming to, it drains parts of Roseville and East Point and St. Clair Shores. And of course we had pumps, temporary pumps, but the pumps couldn't, happened to be while we were constructing it, we got a 100-year event and there wasn't enough capacity, and the streets flooded all the way up over the sidewalks, up to almost people's front door, but there wasn't a single basement got had sewer backup because of the restricted covers and because of the way the system was set up. So
Thank you. Any other? Please.
Darrell Bridges, 34 Kensington. Just a quick question
Yes, sir.
for you. Great presentation on the numbers.
Thank
I
you.
really like that, knowing what the capacity per hour is of the drainage as well as what the system will hold. Perfect, so that way we should all have an idea as to when it's a heavy rain coming, what we should be doing. But my other question related to the aspect of you indicated that you were reviewing, well, the true question would be, how often do you go back and review the systems that have already been in place, i.e. the streets that have been done? How often do you go back to check those lines to see if they're still in good working order?
One of the things that I had a discussion, the new city manager and myself have talked about that a little bit, and that's one of the things we want to start implementing a program to go back and take a look at these now on a regular basis, so that so I don't know, we became engineers here in Pleasant Ridge in 1994. I don't know what was the past practice prior to us getting here. We'd like to put it on a program so that, these sewers are not new. They were built, like I said, yes. And a lot of them are the old crock tile sewers. And even though sometimes they look like they're in good shape, it doesn't take long and they can start moving on you.
Yes, with all the trees especially, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if there was a plan that was in place that actually provided for the maintenance ongoing to review. So we kind of cover that, and it's nice to know that that is being looked at.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Certainly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, next item on the agenda is consideration of the governmental reports. I see we have a few of them tonight, so I don't want you to fight for, but Gary, you're in the room, so you get to go. You get first.
Location.
I know, that's true. That's what's up on the desk.
Hi, I'm Gary McGilvert, County Commissioner for Pleasant Ridge. Couple of things. I brought along a flyer. I just got that yesterday. It's a new program that our IT department out of the county, along with cooperation of the state and several other, Wayne County, Macomb County, we've come up with a way for local municipalities to be able to check for their cybersecurity. It's to be able to do an assessment just to make sure that that you're not going to be hacked, in essence. It's just a simple tool, one that's not available, I guess, as far as I understand, anywhere else. So just wanted to pass that along to you. It'll be being kicked off on September 15th. So if you're interested, you can contact Phil Bertolini from Oakland County IT Department. I also wanted to just offer the opportunity to the Parks and Recreation Commission here in Pleasant Ridge that we, the County Parks Department, will come out and do a presentation for you that just includes what we have with Oakland County Park facilities. We'd love to do that because our goal now is to try to get the word out to residents, to let them know where the parks are and what amenities each of the parks have and that kind of thing. So, Jason, if you'd like us to come, give me a call and I'll schedule it.
Well, Commissioner, thank you. I think that would be fabulous, and I think our Recreation Commission would enjoy that. I think if you could maybe schedule a presentation for our Recreation Commission, but also in a future meeting, City Commission meeting, present some of the similar material. I think that would be more beneficial to the broader community, seeing as these commission meetings are videotaped and would have a wider audience. But I agree with you. I think our Recreation Commission would really enjoy that, and then that information can definitely be repeated at this commission through a liaison report or by yourself.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll have Dan Stencil, the Executive Director of Parks, get in touch with your city manager, and we'll get it set up so that we can do both.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
One other thing I just wanted to mention quickly, I just got an email just before I left from Al Brooks Patterson. Evidently there's been some kind of deal regarding the Regional Water Authority. So I don't know what that deal is. They've called a special meeting for tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So hopefully we'll find out more then. But it will still have to go to the full Board of Commissioners for a vote. So that's kind of where it's at. So I just thought I'd pass that along. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The library jumped up. I mean, the schools jumped up, sorry. Not the one.
Okay. Hi, I'm Nan Cumuller. I been on the board for the last 4 years. You guys know me very well. I'm coming with Jen. I'm coming to announce that I'm running in November to serve another 6 years, and I just wanted to announce that to Pleasant Ridge and come and introduce Jen, who you guys have not met.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Latash, or Jen, as everyone calls me around here. I've been on the school board as a trustee for Ferndale Public Schools since January, and I'm really looking forward to also being on the election for this upcoming November 4th election. So I'm running again for another 6 years after this wonderful last 7 months or so. We also wanted to share some stuff with you of what we're doing with the schools. Part of our strategic plan is for community collaboration, and part of that we're bringing back a actual homecoming celebration. It's not just a game anymore. It's not just for students. We are having a parade that's going to be going down 9 Mile, starting at 5 o'clock right outside Rust Belt. This is on October 3rd. The parade will be going down 9 Mile all the way to Pinecrest, hanging a left, and then going down to the school. And then there'll be a giant tailgate party at the high school and middle school where there will be the band shell out, where the orchestra and the choir and the band will be playing. There'll be food trucks. There's going to be bounce houses for the kids and a rock climbing wall. And this is all before our homecoming game that night at the high school. So we invite all of the community, and we invite you all to come out for the homecoming celebration this year. So
What day is that again?
it's October 3rd, Friday, October 3rd, starting at 5 o'clock. So, thank you very much.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yes.
Just wanted to add that several of us were able to attend the first day of your 2-day session, you know, the opening for teachers.
Oh, yes.
Welcome back,
Thank you
Brendan.
so
Yes.
much. It was
Which was a
great.
wonderful event and very great. The motivational speaker was terrific. And the superintendent was terrific.
Yes.
I thought it really was a great send-off to start the school year. And
It's great in so many ways, and part of it is because so many of you did show up, and it's been really nice to, you know, obviously it's hard to build these partnerships, but I feel like we've been doing a really good job, like working together. Even though we're all really busy, I know I try to come here and often don't, and Jay often tries to come to our things. It's been really nice to have this working back and forth, and I know that I really appreciate it. So.
Oh, I do too.
But I like the way that you also set up the peer-to-peer training too. So it was all Ferndale teachers teaching and training, doing the training sessions.
It was good,
everything.
and
So it was
to follow up on that too, we had exit
Interviews or exit surveys?
polls, surveys by all the teachers to see how they felt about this year beginning of school, you know, as opposed to, and the response was overwhelmingly positive, and the teachers were really excited. And as you know, we're dealing with a lot of issues concerning just a good working environment and them feeling like they're being supported right now. So it's really important for us to get that feedback and know that that's moving forward. I feel really great about Superintendent Pruitt, and he's been doing a ton to work on building those relationships with his teachers, and I know that moving forward he's going to be working on building those relationships with all the cities and townships that we serve as well.
And we have a tremendous amount of talent with our teachers and our administrators and our staff, and Superintendent Pruitt, and with the support of the board, is so excited about highlighting and showcasing that talent and really utilizing that not only for our students but also teaching everybody else at the district. So it's an exciting time, and it's wonderful to see everything working together and what's happening in the schools.
It's very exciting, and it's very exciting to see the talent in our district, like you said, being tapped and doing the peer-to-peer mentoring, because we have a lot of teachers that have been working for a long time and get pulled out of our district to teach other districts. And it hasn't happened that much within our district, so this year will be the first year that we're really working on trying to tap into the talent that we already have.
That's great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you at
Yes,
homecoming.
Chief.
Mr. Mayor, Commission, City Manager. We had a lot of wires down in the city of Ferndale, very few in Pleasant Ridge, but we had an issue occurred. We had probably 80 to 100 violations of barrier tape and barricades, where people felt that they could not see the hazard, so they would move the barricade tape and that. So I'll tell you one brief story to tell you how severe it got. I barricaded Lewiston Street with 2 street barricades, and we had tape across house to house, and I was taping off a 4800, which in layman's terms is 4,800 volt line live, laying on the ground. When I see a shadow to my right, I put my arm up, and a woman pushing her child in her cart pushed him under the barricade tape and stopped about 18 inches to 2 feet away from a live 4800 line. I said, "Where are you going?" She said, "I live over there." I said, "And you'll die right here." She said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm the fire chief, that big white truck with the red lights and the barricade tape." "What did you think those were?" "For cars. For cars driving through the bushes, or what did you think?" She seemed like a very nice and well-educated lady, but she was determined to get home. I thought the incident was over, continued stringing up the tape for the hazard. She went around my left side and tried to go through the lawn into a second 4800 volt line. I said, "Lady, you cannot go this way." "Well, it's not arcing, it's barking." "Yeah, it doesn't matter. The minute you step on it, you become fried chicken. So go back the other way." So I just want to reiterate to everybody, we didn't have any problems like that in Pleasant Ridge, but people are impatient. We all have busy lives, and they have certain paths to go home and that, but it's not worth dying over. And electricity can go through fences, cable lines, phone lines, and any other type of lines. Once it hits something, it's looking to go to ground. And if you happen to be part of that circuit, you will be severely injured, if not killed. And a man was killed in Warren during this weekend. So again, please be careful. If you think you have anything in your backyard, please don't investigate. Call us. Call 911, the police department. We can come out and tell you what it is and if it's serious or not. If it's something not serious, we'll cut it or pull it out of the way, and then if it is, we'll tape off your yard and warn everybody that's connected to the fencing or whatever. I was running late for the commission meeting because I had to pull one off a fence where a girl was babysitting 4 kids. I just didn't trust that they weren't going to go out and get into the fence, so we pulled the electric line and bundled it up for Edison. They don't like us messing with their stuff, but I really don't care. Public safety first. Any questions?
Mayor, if I could. Thanks, Chief. I was just wondering if you can give us an update on how the CERT team performed
The CERT team performed beautifully. We had about 12 CERT members at any given time, but we ran them in shifts. What the CERT does is allows us to free up fire crews. So once we tag the line and put it down, we give them the information, show them what the hazards are, tell them if they have any problems with civilians, just to call the police or call us back. And then they sit and protect the people from themselves is really what they're there for. And apparently we need to do that on every line. So until DTE gets there, but even when DTE gets there, sometimes they only put 1 or 2 DTE on site, and it might have like 6 streets accessing one area with a lot of wires, so we have to cover all 6 streets, or someone's going to wander in.
Would you mind real quick just giving a brief explanation of CERT for maybe people who are unfamiliar with it and ways that they could participate if they're interested?
Yep. I don't know if everyone remembers, those of us that are at a certain age and older, the CD or Civil Defense Program had a blue CD and a red triangle with a white circle in the center back in the nuclear war days and that. And it kind of died off over time, but every city had some sort of civil defense group. FEMA reconstituted it under civilian volunteer corps, and one of the civilian volunteer corps, or civilian corps, is the CERT, and the CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Team. So we train these people as emergency responders like. They get first aid, how to move heavy objects off people, how to put out small fires, how to handle electric wires, and how to mitigate what they can to prevent it from becoming bigger and recognize when it's too big for them and to call for help from us. And it's very helpful because it doesn't matter how big your fire or police force is, when these things happen, we logged backward like 30 911 calls. We were behind. So there was a cache of 911 calls starting, so we started sending single people out, which normally we work in pairs. But we had to get to each emergency and check if it was something severe or somebody was in trouble. Dispatch tried to prioritize any life safety thing up to the front of the list, but you never know if one's going to fall through the cracks. So the CERT people coming in allowed us to free fire crews to be loose and get to all the emergencies as fast as we can. So they're very helpful. They have signs that say CERT on them. They're green. They have a yellow light for their car, and they have a bright green shirt that says CERT on the back, and they're agents of the Ferndale Fire Department. So they carry the authority of us in emergencies, and it's very helpful. And several members are Pleasant Ridge residents. And if anyone would like to join, just give me a call or email me. I'd be more than happy to set you up. We have about 45 members, and out of the 45, we have about 20 that have participated in call-ups. And we use the IRIS system, so we just got to type into a computer. It goes to their phone or their home phone or their email or all three, whatever they choose. And if they're available, they call and respond in. We give them a radio. We monitor the radio at dispatch as well as in all our vehicles, so we can always hear if they call for help. If they get in trouble, we can go bail them out. So it's a great program. Very helpful.
I think it's extraordinary, a great opportunity for residents to help out in their community, and I just want to thank, the residents in Ferndale and Pleasant Ridge who have volunteered in that capacity.
Oh, it's huge. It doesn't really, it doesn't speak to the fact that it over doubles our force, because it cuts the 6A guys we got working free to go take care of the big emergencies, and still rest assured that that's protected. Years ago in Hazel Park, they were sitting on a wire that was hanging in an alleyway, and Edison had not arrived when they got a call of the house fire with people trapped. So they all responded to the house fire, which left this area taped and coned off. When a small child rode her bike under the tape down the alley, and she stood up on her bike to free ride, and the wire hit her in the forehead and killed her instantaneously. So that's many years ago, but the point is, my lesson as a younger firefighter was we have to sit on these things, and we can't wait for Edison. We have to protect the public, because they just don't pay attention to some of this stuff. So. And we used to have red tape, but red tape at night, you can't see it. So we have yellow tape, not to be confused with the yellow of a stoplight. That means caution, proceed slowly. It typically says fire line, do not, we don't even use caution tape. We use fire line, do not cross, police line, do not cross, and the purpose is you shouldn't go past that line. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's great. Chief, no?
Good evening. Kevin Nowak, acting chief for the residents that don't know me. I'm here today because the city manager thought it'd be a good idea, rather than you get those voluminous reports of police statistics that even I don't even understand, and I print them. It'd be better to come and explain some of the things and summarize events or whatever that have occurred here lately. It was a busy late July and August, and the chief's not leaving before. I'm going to skip down on the list here because he's here and he just spoke. In the last 7 or 8 weeks, we've had 2 medical runs where the police and fire were called for heart attacks, and CPR was started and done, and due to the training of the fire department and our officers, both those individuals were brought back to life and made it to the hospital. So kudos to the chief and his fire department, because without them that wouldn't have happened. So I applaud.
Can I just add kudos to the Pleasant Ridge Police Department, because one of those events was on our street. And you guys were there. Oh.
I was going to bring that up
please,
with the manpower thing, but I'll take the kudos. Obviously, you were there for one of them. The police are obviously dispatched first, because the call comes from a resident. It goes to Berkeley Dispatch. They call us. We get it first, and they're notifying Ferndale Fire while we're on the way. Now, as you know, we keep AEDs in our car, and everybody's trained and up to date on their CPR. So we get there and we start our thing, and then they get there, and with manpower, like you witnessed that one day, it was Dream Cruise Day. There were 4 policemen and 4 firefighters there that were actively working, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier to get the equipment and do things and give The people that are performing CPR break because you wouldn't think that doing 2 or 3 minutes of compressions or squeezing the bag for air or whatever would take that much out of you, and
It's the
it
best
does.
cardio workout you'll ever get.
It is. So, the manpower really helps. Having that many guys on Dream Cruise was one of them, and like you and your wife and your neighbors all witnessed. It was quite an event. So, I'll get back. Then I'll segue right into the Dream Cruise thing. There were really no issues with this year's Dream Cruise. It seemed a little lighter than in years past. For the first time ever, we were able to have officers off. That never happened before. Everybody was scheduled, but we were able to manipulate the schedule and have 2 officers actually didn't have to work that day, which made them happy that Dream Cruise fell on their day. So, but like I said, working with Ferndale Police and the Royal Oak, which is our main intersection there at 10 and Woodward and 10 in Maine, we were able to have no problems and no overtime, which is always good for the city manager. He likes no overtime. As you probably have seen, the radar trailer is appearing everywhere around town. Mr. Foreman had questioned me about that. It's a new thing. Before, it used to go in a high volume traffic area where people complain that there were speeders on their street. Now there's a program in place and we keep track and everything. And every 2 or 3 days it gets moved to a different spot where we keep track. And if there are complaints, then we'll move it to a street and then we'll put officers there to enforce that too. But you may be seeing that a lot more than you have in the past. Earlier in like late July, early August, it seemed that we had a rash of crime. I can assure you that it wasn't that much more than it was. It just happened all at once. One of the ones was a home invasion where a woman was cutting her grass and the subject went in her back door and stole her jewelry. I was there on that. By good police work and luck, which I'd rather be lucky than good every time, a suspect was identified from that, and he has been charged, and it's currently in the Oakland County justice system pending his trial. Also, the bank was robbed, as you know. Shortly after, actually the day the home invasion guy was arrested or investigated, the same day the bank was robbed. We were there for an hour and a half in the bank lot with this home invasion suspect. We left and the bank got robbed. So he may have been watching. We don't know, but he was a career criminal. And he was apprehended Labor Day. And they're actively looking at charging him for 14 to 15 bank robberies throughout numerous communities. The Michigan Department of Corrections were here today. And he is a lifelong criminal that violated his parole. So whether he gets charged in all of the bank robberies or not, he did violate his parole and he'll be going away for that. Let's see. Also, we had that incident with where a subject was going through a woman's car and she confronted him and he grabbed a box cutter type knife that was in her vehicle and didn't point it at her but held it down, and she told him, hey, just leave and you can take what you want. And he didn't get anything from the car, but he left. I know that caused a lot on the Facebook page and whatever, which we see. I'm not on it, but I hear about it and I see it. But we identified a suspect also for that and presented witnesses with a photo lineup. They couldn't say with exact certainty, but know that he's a local person, not in this city, but somewhere to the west, and their agency as well as us, he's on our radar now. So he didn't get caught this time, but I'm sure he'll do it again and he'll get caught hopefully the next time. And that leads me into just a thing about all these larceny from vehicles that we've been having lately. It seems like there's a lot. There's not. I pulled the numbers. I know you see it on the Facebook page, and it seems like it's a rash of crime, but from August, let's see, page 2. What did I do with it? Anyway, the numbers were down from the year before, from 2012 to 13, but they were up from 13 to 14. But I can tell you that they're up because there was only one reported in August of 2013, and there's 4 for this year. So I wouldn't call it that it's an overwhelming volume of crime. It may seem that way because that's what appears on the Facebook page. But if people want to come and talk with us or call us, we'll give them the right info, so it doesn't seem like it's such a drastic crime wave that has gone on. So that, I think I have touched everything other than to prevent that. This is one of the darker cities that I've ever worked in. If people would put motion lights in or some pathway lights or things like that. The number one thing obviously is locking your car. I know before I go to bed, I hit the button on the car and watch that the lights flash, so I lock the doors. No one's immune to crime. Next thing, motion lights that go on, or if you got an alarm sign, even if you don't have an alarm, it helps. Or, you know, beware of dog, even if you don't have a dog, that seems to help. But know that it's dark, and as a guy that worked midnights for 6 or 7 years here, you drive down the street and it's really dark. It's hard to see somebody up by your car unless a light goes on or something. And if I'm looking right, there could be 10 guys in your car waving at me at the left that I'm never going to see. You try to look everywhere, but we don't have red capes or big S's on our chests, even though we try to be. So if anything that you can do to make our job easier, then we could prevent some of these crimes like that.
So porch lights.
Porch lights. I know I live in an old neighborhood in Dearborn where I have one of them post lanterns and stuff. Those are great because then you see a shadow. I noticed I had a incident where I was up in Berkeley with them, and a Birmingham car was there, and they had a instrument on their spotlight that was basically a forward-looking infrared. It's like a radar on their car, which gives a heat signature. What that costs or whatever, I don't know yet. I'll look into it for next time.
That'll be coming.
I'm fearful of that, but if it's something that could help us, I mean, it would help us with everything, you know? So if it's something that we could do, then maybe we could look at that. And I'll have that maybe for you next time. Question?
Any questions?
Yeah, if I could. Yeah, I just wanted to state that if residents have any questions about staffing levels or patrol frequency, please contact our city manager directly. One thing I've really been excited about since Chief has come on is the relationship between himself and our new city manager. Not that the relationship wasn't strong with our previous police chief and our previous city manager. I believe it was, but I'm comforted to know that this new relationship is starting off just as strong. So I would like and encourage residents, if they have any questions or concerns about patrolling or frequency, that they contact Jim, and then it can be discussed. But I just want to assure residents that there's no reason for anyone to question when our officers are on duty that they're not fulfilling their duties in the most severe way and looking out for ourselves and our property and our families in the most diligent way. And I would never question their abilities or their determination on the clock and protecting this community. So I just wanted to state that and encourage residents, like I said, if they have any questions or concerns about the performance of any, and this goes for any of us in the city, the administration, please contact city manager. But as far as our police officers concerned, I have always been, as a resident and as a commissioner, fully satisfied and confident to go to sleep every night knowing that they're out there patrolling and protecting us. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we are done with governmental reports, right? It's kind of a record, I think.
so.
All right, the next item is consideration of the city commission liaison reports. First up, Commissioner Foreman.
Caught me off guard.
Oh.
First.
Would you like to switch it around?
Yes, I do have a few updates, as a matter of fact. Of course, school officially started back up this past Tuesday, September 2nd. I know there were, and there probably still are, a great number of parents pretty elated about that. At least one in my house, quite excited. Next, I'd like to give a few updates from last month's Ferndale School Board meeting. I have 3 categories. I'll go through them quickly. They're just bullet points. First is the bond improvements. You'll remember a couple of years ago we all voted on a bond and it passed. I think it was back in 2012. So this was to fund various improvements throughout the school district. All of these projects that needed to be completed by the start of school this year have been completed before school started. Coincidentally, this coming Thursday, which is September 11th, the district will be doing a tour to showcase all these improvements, and all residents are welcome to attend it. The tour will start at Ferndale High School at 6 p.m., and a bus will be on site to transport everyone to the different sites to see the different improvements that were made. Again, all residents are welcome. If you expect to do the tour, you can always show up, but if you know you're going to be there, you can call ahead of time and let them know. The number is 248-586-8652. Finally, regarding the bond improvements, Plant Moran came in and gave a presentation at the last board meeting to analyze how the bond improvements were done. Efficiencies, areas of improvement, things like that were looked at, and a number of constructive ideas were brought forth for the future to make our money work harder. A few items from the superintendent's report, which he gives every month. Schools of choice applicants will now be vetted more consistently than they have been in the past. So if they're coming from another school, Ferndale schools will check with that school to check their record and attendance and behavior and things like that before they're just automatically accepted in. It hadn't been done quite as consistently as we'd like. Next year there's a plan to change the enrollment deadline to sometime in the spring, and this is more of a best practice type thing. It's done throughout many school districts. It helps with budgeting because then you have a better idea of what students and how many will be there when the next school year starts, and you can plan your budget accordingly. And finally, in that category would be the board has many different committees that they form for various different tasks and such. Those committees have been consolidated to make better use of everyone's time. There were so many committees, I think, everyone was really overstretched. So now they've been consolidated and there won't be quite so many meetings to go to. I think that's good for everyone's staff, school board, and residents. And the last category of updates would be general items. There's a new student behavior policy being implemented throughout the district. It's abbreviated with the acronym SOAR, S-O-A-R. It stands for Show Respect, Own Your Behavior, Act in Excellence, and Arrive Ready to Learn. Staff members will use this common language to frame their discussions with all students as well as their daily interactions. And also, one last thing, a number of teachers were recognized for reaching tenure status, one of which is a Pleasant Ridge resident, Kara Edwards. So congratulations, Mrs. Edwards. And I have one thing to mention that isn't limited to the Ferndale schools. This pertains to all high schoolers. It's something I posted on Facebook and elsewhere. It's an essay contest that is being put on by the Michigan Municipal League Foundation. The Michigan Municipal League is the organization that they provide services to cities as well as they do a lot of advocating in Lansing. We use them to find our city manager. They provide many different services. So they have a charitable arm, the MML Foundation, and they're the ones that are putting on this essay contest. So the point of the essay contest is to kind of bring younger people, high schoolers, and get them interested in local government at an earlier age maybe than they would have normally been. And there's a question that's being asked. It is, if you were an elected official, like a council member, mayor, village president, and so on, how would you improve the quality of life in your community? Seems like a simple question, but a lot goes into that type of question, and these are people that maybe aren't thinking about these types of things at this stage of their life. They're getting ready for college, or they're just having a good time. Not always are we thinking about what can we do to better our community. Some are, but not all the time. So this is a good way to kind of promote that type of thought. So they write an essay around this, and they can win an all-expense paid trip to the National League of Cities Congress of Cities Conference in Austin, Texas, where they'll have an opportunity to participate in many youth delegate workshops and interact with local government officials around the country. And this is an experience that could really help to unlock potential for their future in an area that maybe they wouldn't have ever investigated. So I just kind of wonder if we have any Pleasant Ridge students, high schoolers, that would be interested in this type of contest. I know we have probably a lot of homework starting up, but you know, essays are fun. You get to say what you think. So this could be something that could turn into something bigger. Finally, quickly, a few items from the calendar. Tomorrow, the 10th of September, is Picture Day at Ferndale High School, so kids should leave the pajamas at home. Monday, the 15th of September at 7 p.m. is the next school board meeting. I'll be there as well as a number of residents. It's always an interesting meeting, so always more than welcome. October 1st is Picture Day for Kennedy and Roosevelt Elementary Schools, and we heard tonight that 3rd is homecoming, and we're all welcome to that big event as well. All these things can be found on the Ferndale Schools website. It's under the About Us menu on the homepage. You'll see district calendar. You can find more things that I didn't mention tonight, if there are any. That's it for me, sir.
Thanks, Commissioner Foreman. Next up, Commissioner Perry, Planning and DDA.
The Planning Commission and DDA did not meet in August due to a lack of a quorum, but next Wednesday you can join the DDA as they host Wine, Dine, and Rhythm, a picnic in Stevenson Park on Wednesday, September 17th at 6:30 p.m. The band will be Digaphony. Is that right, Scott?
Right.
Thank you. Detroit's own Beatles band that we've heard is just wonderful and very authentic. Where they don't have the costuming, but they have the sound. And so that's even more important. Dinner will also be available from Mr. Kebab for $8. They have vegetarian as well as different meat choices. And then wine and beer will also be available for purchase. And this is all at 6:30 p.m. next Wednesday in Stevenson Park. The next meeting for the Planning Commission and DDA will be Monday, September 22nd at 7 p.m. here at City Hall. And then also, the Woodward Avenue Action Association has a weekly newsletter, and they want people to sign up for it. It has really interesting information that about things that are going on the Woodward corridor. You can sign up for it at woodwardavenue.org. The newsletter discusses everything from upcoming events along the corridor. It discusses like a new National Scenic Byway app that they're developing, which will sort of work like a Yelp as far as, you know, it'll tell you everything from different restaurants and where libraries are, or where, you know, different sites and things along Woodward. And then it also keeps you updated on developments, the newsletter does, about the Highland Park Ford plant and other things that are happening on Woodward. You can sign up, like I said, you can sign up for the newsletter at woodwardavenue.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Commissioner Scott with the Historical Commission.
We had our last meeting last week. The meetings are always the first Wednesday of the month with a couple of exceptions, and we talked a couple of topics. The first was the Antique Show, which is scheduled from October 3 through 5. It should be a great show this year, and I think we have over 20 vendors already selected. There'll be a preview evening on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday we'll also have antiques for sale and just to come and look. There's been some conversation, actually a lot of conversation about the choice of the date, and it's a very unfortunate choice. It happened, I think the date was picked over 4 months ago. It was advertised during the Home and Garden Tour, and all sorts of people just missed the scheduling of the date. We have at least one Jewish member on the Historical Commission that missed it as well. So there was no ill meaning or intent in the choice of the date. It was just it just got missed. And certainly for next year, it's on everyone's top of mind to avoid that. As I recall, there are 2 Jewish holidays around September and October, and we'll be certain to miss both of them when we choose the date. So it was just an unfortunate happening. The other unfortunate thing is that we could not move the date after it was brought to our attention because the vendors had already been selected, and it's very hard to get them to schedule another date this close to the event. So we called around, we checked with some of the vendors, and they all said there's no way we could move at this point because they have other events that they go to as well. So attempts were made to rectify the situation. We weren't able to do so this year, but we will be on top of it next year. The other item is the silver anniversary for I-696 is coming up. We had actually planned to do something in December, and then we realized everyone's really busy in December, so we're going to throw a party of some kind and have a nice presentation about I-696 in January. So stay tuned for that. It should be a great a learning experience. And if you've had any stories to share about I-696, if you were here in town and you remember how it looked before the highway was built, or if you have photos that you can provide, please you can actually contact me and I'll share that with the Historical Commission so we can weave that into our event in January. But it's really interesting to think how much the city has changed since the opening of I-696. Pleasant Ridge has certainly seen some changes with the highway being present, and And so we want to make that a special moment. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. And finally, Commissioner Krzyjak with Recreation.
Thank you, Mayor. The Recreation Commission had 2 meetings in August. Actually, one was at Gainesboro Park where we invited Lance Shipman from Landscape Structures to talk with the Recreation Commission about park equipment for the Gainesboro Park improvements. These improvements are being made possible by the funds collected through the Pleasant Ridge Foundation, and the Pleasant Ridge Foundation has worked really hard the last 2 years to provide these funds. The Recreation Commission has been working on selecting this equipment, and we're getting to the point where at our last meeting, official meeting, the Recreation Commission selected a overall design for the play equipment. I've asked Scott to say a few words. He's got the layout, and if you could, Scott, just update the residents on where we're at.
I'll be quick, I promise. Well, of course, it's in a search for my single. Oh, there it is. Okay, so thanks to the Pleasant Ridge Foundation, our renovations to Gainesboro Park are underway. They actually started yesterday working on the inside of the building at the shelter. So along with the shelter improvements, we have a new playground area that's going to be going in that's designed for 2 to 5-year-olds, an audience that we really don't meet with the current structure. So this is the general layout and design that we've gone with, sans some maybe exactly where it's placed in the park. The original design was going to cause us to have to remove a couple of trees, so we moved it and changed the shape to save a tree here and be able to save the existing swing set that's here. So we have a larger structure going in right here, and a couple smaller pieces that go with that. A shade type structure, we're not sure if that's the exact location where it's going to be, but that's the general layout. This is the general play elements that are involved. There's 9 different elements that go into this structure alone, including a talk tube. So if you have a kid here, they can talk into that tube, and the kid can hear them over here. So it's a fun little piece, and a small Weevils piece over here, and then a small new toddler swing that will be going in that area. Underneath all of this will be a rubberized play surface, like you've probably seen in some other parks. It's called a poured in place safety surface, and it's spongy, and it has very low maintenance, and it is spectacular looking when it goes in. That's the thing that we just kind of talked about with the concrete curbing going around that, the safety surface, and the play elements. Inside the shelter, the building needs some TLC, to say the least. We will be doing some exterior painting, interior painting, restroom partitions, new fixtures, new flooring, new exterior drinking fountain, a new roof, and electronic access system where residents will be able to come and get a card, so they'll be able to swipe it over the door and be able to access the restrooms in the facility from certain periods during the day. So that's a key portion to that. And of course, how much does the construction of all this cost the residents? It's free. Phase of this project is being 100% funded by the Pleasant Ridge Foundation, and thanks to them again. And something really quick, that our new LED lights were installed at Fort Ridge today in the parking lot. So you can see they're
real time,
very bright. Return on investment on the cost of those lights about 2.3 years. We'll save about $1,700 a year. The old lamps were 425 watts. The new ones are 120 watts. So way less energy, way brighter. Very nice, very impressive looking. So run by the community center and take a look at those on your list.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Chief, when we have those all over the city, it's going to be.
Won't be as dark.
Thanks, Scott. Back to you. Any more?
That's all I have. I'd like to thank Scott and the entire Recreation Commission for working on this over the last few months. And I'll just ask, we highlighted the talk tube. When parents talk into that, will the kids listen to them?
Never gonna happen.
Okay.
Charlie Brown voice.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. The next item on the agenda, consideration of the following consent agenda. There are 3 items. First is proclamation declaring September as National Preparedness Month. Second is proclamation declaring September 17th as Citizenship Day and September 14th through 20th, 2014 as Constitution Week. And finally, a request by the First United Methodist Church in Ferndale to hold its annual Ferndale Area Crop Walk Sunday, September 28th, 2014. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Your Honor, I move the consent agenda be approved as recommended.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any questions, comments? Okay, may we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuziak?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. The next item is consideration of the 2015 to 2019 Library Services Agreement Extension between the City of Pleasant Ridge and the City of Huntington Woods. Jim?
Yes, this is a continuation of the item that was postponed last month to allow for further citizen comment. Any citizen comment that we received in the office via email was included in the packets and forwarded for you for your review. We did receive a couple of comments that came in after the packets went out late Thursday afternoon that didn't make it in here. I think there was one comment that was in favor of Ferndale, but that was the only written comment we received in favor of Ferndale. The rest of them were all in favor of sticking with Huntington Woods. So I gave the presentation last month, but basically staff was recommending the renewal of the contract with Huntington Woods. And I'd be happy to go over anything again, but with that, I'd turn it back to you for deliberation.
Do I have a motion to approve the contract as so stated?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the revised and restated contract for library services between the City of Pleasant Ridge and the City of Huntington Woods be approved for a period of 5 years from January 1, 2015 through December 31st, 2019, contingent upon voter approval of the proposed library services millage request on the November 4th, 2014 general election ballot.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion?
I did have a quick thing to mention. Jim and I had emailed today just regarding some language in number 5. It kind of implied that our 2 board positions are new, when really they're not. So I just kind of wondered if we could correct that and just leave it as though they are standard and not new. So I don't know if that's a big deal for us to correct or not, but I thought I would put it out there just to kind of button this up. It was in that last renewal, but it seems like something we could fix because these positions are not new.
Mr. Mayor? I just want to thank everyone who spoke up and reached out. There were a lot of questions asked and a lot of opinions shared over this past month. And the feedback was really valuable, and I just want to thank everyone. The majority of the feedback that I heard did support the Huntington Woods contract based on a value of the service, and they really, the financial arrangement, people really found attractive too. So thank you all for the information. I appreciate your time.
And just one last thing to emphasize the fact that we are part of a network, so that everybody has access to Ferndale. They have access to Royal Oak, to Hazel Park, to Oak Park. We have a wonderful plethora of libraries, very good, each one with even different strengths and advantages. And we have tried them all, and it's a wonderful opportunity that we have. And by being with Huntington Woods, we have that access. So let me ask for a vote.
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuziak?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries.
Mayor, if
Yes,
I could,
yeah.
I'd just like to thank Ann Haig for coming back out this evening and Stacy Stutcher, who's our member of the library board. I appreciate your patience over the last month, and I hope I look forward to continuing what's been a very beneficial relationship with the. I know. I do know all about your patience. Thank you.
It's nice to see you smiling as well. This time.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is consideration of the resolution regarding the appointment of the Pleasant Ridge City Manager to serve as the liaison to the Oakland County Emergency Management Coordinator.
Yes, so this is housekeeping, really. The city manager has always been the liaison or coordinator for emergency management, previously listed by name. So this would appoint the city manager by position to serve as that liaison.
Makes sense to me. Do I have a motion to approve?
Your Honor, I move the resolution appointing the city manager to serve as the liaison to the Oakland County Emergency Management Coordinator be approved as recommended.
Is there a second?
A second.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuziak?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. The next item is consideration of the discussion regarding investment options for the Segregated Capital Assets Fund, also known as SCAF. And the city manager, the presentation.
Yes.
Lights.
Thank you. So we have an option available to us with the SCAF fund. SCAF is a Segregated Capital Assets Fund, the I-696 Segregated Capital Assets Fund. And there was monies that the city received as a result of a settlement from the state, basically for the value of lands taken for the construction of 696. The key points tonight are we're talking about a reinvestment or investment options for how we put the money that's in SCAF to work for us. And we have a three-pronged approach to solving the funding problem, and I'll talk about this manageable risk profile. We'll get to that towards the end. But basically our restricted principal balance, the city got $3.24 million from the state, which we've had for well over 20 years now, 25 years. And that's been invested according to the surplus funds requirements in state law. Now, this functions like an endowment. When the city received this money, we passed an ordinance that basically said that we're only supposed to live off the interest of that money. The city can use the principal, but it requires a supermajority vote of the city commission to have some protections in place to make sure that that's hard to do. And again, I said that 4/5 vote. So going back just 10 years, the SCAF was invested according to PA 20 for surplus government funds. Very conservative. We can invest surplus government funds in very short-term commercial, investment-grade commercial paper, government bonds, government securities, and the like. Now, the key point is that these types of investments follow pretty closely with the federal funds rate, which is this blue line. In essence, it's a money market account or a cash deposit, the kind of return you get on those kinds of investments these days. So the city used to get quite a bit of money because investment interest rates were up at 5%. And then as as the interest rates dropped, and of course there's a delay because we had 6 month or 1 year, or 2 year laddered CDs. As those started to come mature and we had to reinvest that money, the return we got on our SCAF has dropped precipitously. So now we're getting about $40,000 a year out of our SCAF fund, whereas in the past we're getting $180,000 a year. You adjust that for inflation, for what happened 7 or 8 years ago, for the time value of money, and we've lost even more than that. So we used to use SCAF for things like supplementing rebuilding our streets. So we took our road infrastructure millage and then we added SCAF on top of that, and we were able to do a street every year, no problem. Well, now we've lost so much of that SCAF revenue that it's very difficult for us to do a street every year because a road infrastructure millage never brought in enough by itself to do a street every year. We were supplementing it with SCAF. And there's been some other pressures on the interest that we've gotten out of SCAF as the downturn happened, right here. General government revenues fell off. So we started having to use the SCAF interest to plug other holes, like operations at the pool, where we're using $35,000 a year of SCAF money to supplement the pool operations because the pool operating millage doesn't bring in enough to fully operate the pool by itself. So a proposed solution. PA 43 of 1943 is the PA 20 of 1943. Regardless, it's a public act from 1943. And that's what establishes how we can invest in surplus government funds, with those very limited things we can invest in that these days have almost no return. PA 404 of 2008 created a new avenue, a new potential for investment options. Basically, if a city has a special revenue fund for parks and recreation, then that city can invest those monies under the Pension Fund Act, which basically opens up everything. You can invest just like a pension fund would. So you can invest in instruments that have a better return and better upside potential. So to put this in context, we've talked about $145,000 basically structural deficit that the city has right now. We talked about that at the July meeting when we introduced, the millage requests that are on the ballot for November. We've talked about how our fund balance is at 21%, sorry, this should be 25 to 30, but 25 to 30% is a best practice. We're at 21%. We were at 800,000 or 30% 5 years ago, but we've drawn that fund balance down to supplement operations during the downturn. So we're at $525,000 today. So if we take that 30% as our best practice target as a budgetary policy, that we want to have a fund balance at 30% to provide working capital for day-to-day operations, to provide buffers against downturns or unexpected black swan events like 300-year storms, windstorms. This windstorm we had 2 days ago was the 10th windstorm in DTE's 111-year history. These things happen back to back. We have something again coming tomorrow. We have these events that we can't budget for that impact our fund balance. And that's why we need to have a healthy, strong fund balance to buffer us through these times where we have unexpected events that occur. So if we do the math, we want to get to $800,000, which is back up to that 30% of our general fund operating budget, and we're at $525,000 now. We need to raise $275,000 to rebuild our savings, to get us back to solid and stable financial footing. So ideally, we build that up over 5 years. It's not going to happen in a day, but even building up over 5 years would require $55,000 a year. So we have a structural deficit where we're drawing down fund balances, where we're deferring maintenance of $145,000. And if we want to build up our fund balance, we actually have to find $200,000 of new revenue or new net revenue. And again, this ignores black swan events. If we have more floods and storms that cost the city $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 a year, that comes right out of this bottom line. So the solution, the City Commission has put a general operating millage request on the ballot for November. If approved, that would raise $108,000 of new revenue. We think we can find $25,000 of additional cost savings through cuts, efficiencies, other streamlining. And through this option of reinvesting SCAF in a new way, we think we can raise $70,000 of new revenue. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But basically that gets us to this magic number of $3,000, rounding error at that point. So this is a three-pronged solution to get the city back over time on good, solid financial footing. So the outcomes, we think there's a potential for $60,000 to $80,000. When I say we, I mean staff, because we put this together and we're bringing this to the commission in the world for the first time. We think there's a potential for $60,000 to $80,000 of additional interest revenue out of SCAF every year. And to put that in perspective, that's equal to about $500,000 of property tax revenue that could be raised. With this option, we don't have to ask the residents to pay an extra $500,000 because we're putting our money to work better for us. So a little bit of an outline for how this goes. We would set an outline or set a target of 4 to 5% as our target return on principal. We know that over the long run, over the last 100 years, the market returns 8% a year. That's been its long-term average. Now, is that going to be the long-term average? Don't know. They talk about slower growth in the future, economists and whoever, so maybe it's 6% growth every year. That would be, in a developed economy, maybe that's what we're looking at. But even with that, at 6% a year over 100 years, and if we're setting our target return on principal at 4 to 5% a year, that's what we want to take out of SCAF every year. that gives us excess returns, and those might be 1% one year. In 1 year we might have 20% excess returns. In other years we might lose money because the market goes down. But if you keep and retain those excess earnings in the SCAF fund and build that principal over time, you give yourself a cushion for the downtimes. So, scenario testing. What happens if we invest SCAF under some different investment options? So we ran 2 scenarios. The first one is going back simply 10 years from now, July 1st, 2004, 10 years ago. The second scenario, and that would be right here. This is the S&P 500 as it's ran since 1993. So, the tech boom, and then the tech bust, and then, the housing boom, and then the housing bust, and then today, whatever today is, I don't know. The second scenario is, what if we pick the worst possible day to invest this money? If we decided, we're gonna do this SCAF investment option, and we invested it the day before the market crashed, and we all suffered through the Great Recession. And if you go back, that would be the worst day to invest your money, except for the day before the Great Depression. And so that's our worst case scenario. What would have happened if we had done that? So the 2004 scenario, we've got some lines here. I'll tell you what they mean. This one is the S&P 500, the pure market, all stocks. So we start at this point in 2004 when SCAF was worth about $3.4 million of principal balance. So that's our starting point for all of these. So we track them over time. What would have happened if we put our money in each of these options? This gold line here is a moderate growth index, which is 60% in the stock market and then 40% in the total bond market. This line is 40% stocks, 60% bonds. This red line is 20% stocks, 80% bonds. And then here we have what SCAF actually returned. And so what you see is that investing this money in 2004, we would have been underwater compared to what SCAF was worth for about a year here. But then everything recovered. And so today, the value of the pure stock market from that $3.4 million, if we had retained all of the dividends and the value of principal, that'd be worth $6.4 million today. Well, SCAF today, if we had retained, instead of spending anything out of SCAF, all that interest we took out of SCAF, if we had just kept that in the fund, it would have been worth about $4.4 million. So this is the upside. This is what we would have benefited from under these investment options starting in 2004. And again, this is our annual interest return. Say we set 4.5% as our target return. Well, under all of these other investment options today, we'd be pulling $145,000 out of SCAF every year consistently, except for one downturn year here. Whereas we're actually getting $40,000 a year out of SCAF. So we'd be getting $105,000 a year extra out of SCAF. And again, that's where that $60,000 to $80,000 number I have comes from. If you take $145,000 minus $40,000, that gets you the difference there. We would propose to keep some money in the conservative investments that SCAF is today and invest the rest of that money. So maybe a third of what we have in SCAF would stay exactly as it's invested today. That would return $10,000 a year. The other, $2 or $2.5 million we'd invest in the market. So we're basically, diversifying here to protect ourselves. That ends up getting you $60,000 to $80,000 a year extra compared to where we are today. So switching gears, the 2007 scenario, the doomsday, the worst case. We put our money in and then the next day all the home builders go bust and nobody has any money. What we see here is it takes longer, obviously, to recover, but by last year, all of the market rate investments, whether they're stocks, bonds, or the market, all of those had surpassed what the value of SCAF would have been. And by today, we'd still be looking at anywhere from $600,000 to $1 million more in the SCAF fund compared to the investment as it was. So the point here is that, yes, there's risk if we invest our money in some market rate securities in SCAF, but is that manageable risk? And I think that these examples show that yes, there is short-term risk, but over the long run, history has proven, and the fact that you don't invest your retirement money, your 401k, you don't invest it in something that returns 0.5% a year. I think all of us are in mutual funds and stocks and bonds because you have to be. 0.5% a year is trailing inflation, so we're actually losing money on SCAF every year. We're losing relative value. So, you have to accept some level of risk over the long run in order to continue to grow your money. And if we treat SCAF like an endowment, then we have to keep growing that principal balance over time so that it keeps pace with inflation, so that over time inflation losses don't bring us down to essentially zero. Because 100 years from now, $3.4 million will be a drop in the bucket. You could buy a car in 1950 for $2,000. You can't do that today. So, the value of money changes over time. So here's our annual interest again. You see that our annual interest from all of these various other market rate investment options, we're surpassing what SCAF would be returning by 2011 or at the latest 2012. So we recovered fairly quickly in terms of what we would have lost. A practical example, the Pleasant Ridge Foundation actually has a trust fund, and they invested it in 2005 in a mutual fund that has returned 7.6% annualized returns. And so that includes going through the recession, coming out of the recession. They made 7.6% every year. They started with $47,000 and put in about $13,000 rounding of additional money into that fund. So $60,000 of contributions, and today it's worth $114,000. So this is just a practical example of something that actually does exist and did go through the Great Recession. And today, the foundation, not we, but the foundation has made back all of their losses and much more. So again, these are our key points. Use our existing assets better, put our money to work harder for us. This is an investment. What we're asking for tonight is basically to introduce the idea. We haven't done any of the hard work that comes along with this yet. We have an ordinance that regulates how we can use SCAF. We would have to create a budget amendment to create a special revenue fund for Parks and Recreation. The way this works is money is fungible. So we create this Parks and Recreation fund that could only be used for Parks and Recreation improvements. But we could take that $60,000 or $80,000 a year and put that into the Parks and Recreation department, and then the general fund would have to spend $60,000 to $80,000 less every year supporting Parks and Recreation. That money comes out. New money. Old money, same money, but we can use it on whatever we want to at that point. We have to amend the SCAF ordinance. We're not proposing to change how SCAF operates. We're not proposing to get rid of any of those limitations on use of principal. We would keep it exactly as it exists today as an endowment, but one that would actually be working harder for us, one that would give us much greater medium to long-term upside potential and, in fact, greater today cash returns every year that we could use to help solve some of our budget problems. So, and so these are actually, I jumped ahead of myself, but these are the next steps. I wanted to bring this to you before we started going through all the hard work of figuring out all of those, details that we would have to do. To introduce this to you, to get your comment, and basically just to ensure that this is something that the commission was comfortable with us exploring further. There's no question that we're taking on extra risk on the principal balance, but any look at historic market returns will show you that over time, that is manageable risk. And we're not asking the city to do anything with its money that I think every single resident in town does with their own money, with their own retirement money. So that's our presentation. That's kind of the idea behind this. This would be something that we would develop over the course of months. As we come forward with this, it'd be an ordinance amendment, so there'd be a public hearing. We'd have a lot of discussion on this. We'd have to work with Plant Moran. They're our city treasurer, but they have investment advisors. I would not at all see going at all exotic with this. The foundation has it in a fairly, I don't want to call it vanilla, but a fairly standard, moderate mutual fund that doesn't invest in any crazy things. We would probably just invest in a market index fund, with a stock and bond mix to help diversify and smooth out some of those bumps. But like I said, we have a lot of work to do to investigate this and to dot all the I's and cross the T's. So with that, I would open it up to the commission or anyone here with us tonight who has any questions, comments on this. We're happy to discuss.
Mayor, I have a question. So, Jim, in July, when you presented the state of the city's finances and the wording of the millages that are proposed in the November ballot, it said the intent of that was basically to stop the bleeding, stop the drain on the city's fund balance of the general fund. So, if that were to pass, the bleeding were to stop, you still have the same static fund balance. It's not growing, and this is to basically heal whatever the wound was, not just stop it from bleeding, but to grow it back up to how it's supposed to be. That's what I get from it. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything material.
That's exactly correct. The millage plus the cost savings that I think we can get, that aren't guaranteed, but I think we can get, would stop the bleeding. But it wouldn't build fund balance. It wouldn't give us any better cushion or safety net. So when we have $20,000 of unexpected refuse cleanup costs from the flood, this would be our buffer against those events in the future. So,
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commission? Any questions from? Yes.
Daryl Bridges, 34 Kensington. If I'm not mistaken, it looked like Vanguard's fund.
Yes.
Is there any reason why it was Vanguard, or did you just pick one, or was there research on any other funds? Just as curiosity. I like Vanguard, but
yeah, no. The reason I picked Vanguard is I personally am invested in Vanguard.
Disclosure, please.
Disclosure, yes, full disclosure. Yet I have no financial interest.
Yes, understandable.
Yeah, but no, I like Vanguard because they're very low expense rate.
Ratio. Correct.
Very low expense ratios, and if you look at expense ratios over time, they have those funds were 30%. Other funds that were very similar were not 30%, 0.3%, or 0.8% or 0.9%. And over time, that 0.6% gobbles up.
Becomes Pac-Man.
Yes, it becomes huge over time. So that's why I picked the Vanguard funds. And those were their institutional grade, basically just 60% total stock, 40% total bond market funds. Just very nice index, low cost, straightforward ways to go. So that's why I use those.
Okay.
If T. Rowe Price or whoever has better
there's
options.
Tons of them, but I was just curious as to why that was the one. But
yes,
makes good sense.
Yeah. Thanks for noticing.
and just to follow up to that, so if that was used in your example, but that's not necessarily what we would end up using, because you're going to still go into all this research.
We have to go into all this research. Yes. One of the things we probably want to do is if we have access to investing in market rate securities in the SCAF ordinance, we probably need to include an investment committee in there. Just for checks and balances to make sure that we have all of these proper things in place. So the investment committee would have to look into the options for how this, how this happens, what the best way to go is. I'm quite sure that we have some very qualified residents in Pleasant Ridge who can, serve on that with us. We have Plant Moran at our disposal. They have, investment advisors. So, yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Well, I would just say, Mayor, that I appreciate the work that Jim has put forward to this proposal, and I would just assure residents that this is the onset of the exploration, and part of this exploration will be robust citizen, not only information and education, but also contributions from the residents as far as their questions and their concerns. And I think you mentioned it in your presentation. This was money it's our money. It was fought for, and it was won in a settlement, and it's bequeathed to not only us but future generations of Pleasant Ridgers. So we'll be handling this with the utmost care and consideration, and part of that involves feedback from the residents. So I would encourage anyone tonight or in the coming months to please give your feedback and comments, and feel free to send questions to any of us, or certainly Jim.
I think that's just giving you basically an okay that I think we feel very strongly that you should proceed.
Right. Yeah, and this may not come back next month. That may not be. There's a lot of work to be done. So.
Right. Okay. All right. The next item is consideration of the FY 2015 Municipal and Community Credits Contract with the Suburban Mobility Authority for Regional Transport, or SMART. Anything to be said about it? Probably. Do I have a motion to approve?
Your Honor, I move the fiscal year 2015 municipal and community credits contract between the City of Pleasant Ridge and the Suburban Mobility Authority for Regional Transportation, SMART, be approved as recommended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
May we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. City Manager's report.
Yes, well,
What's that?
there's been a couple things that went on in the last month. Yeah, we had the very good update from our city engineer, kind of about what happened with the flooding. Just to put some numbers to it, we here in Pleasant Ridge had about a third of our houses flood. Mine included. We had about $20,000 of unexpected trash cleanup costs. So that's a significant amount. I think our annual refuse hauling contract is somewhere in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. So $20,000 is getting close to 10% of that. A lot of things got put on hold this month because we were doing a lot of work on flood cleanup, on coordinating with Oakland County. I think some of you might have seen FEMA walking around town one day as they do their damage assessment. All those little things really add up and chew up your time. But we had 33%, a third of houses here flood. I think Huntington Woods and Clawson were closer to 70%. All the numbers aren't in yet, but a lot of other cities got just hammered by this. And all things considered, we were really at the lower end of the damage scale for the communities that got flooded. So, it was bad, but it could have been a lot worse. We're assessing why the basements flooded where they did, but I met with the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner, and they're in the process of, over the entire 14 cities that are in the 12 towns drainage district, which is most of southeast Oakland County. What they're finding is topography played just a big role in it, because the topography changes, but everything flows to that Red Run drain, where it exits. But you still have high and low points among there. So the ground elevation might be here, but the sewers have to flow on gravity. So the sewers have a constant fall underneath the ground. So where the topography comes down to meet that sewer, water finds its own level when it starts to back up. Just find its own level. So, basement floor elevation, topography, they all played a big factor in why it flooded where it did. And, on the east side where everything flows to that one, collector sewer, that's the low point. So of course, that's kind of where it happened. And then of course on the west side of town we have Maplefield. So these are the kind of things we're looking at. The question is asked sometimes, where do we go from here? And that's a very good question, because we've spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars upgrading this regional drainage system that we have. And it was designed for a 10-year 1-hour storm, because that's the MDEQ's requirement. And we didn't have basement flooding because of a storm event in town for a long time, decades. And now we do. But we're finding that it's really becoming apparent that a 300-year storm or a 100-year storm isn't a 100-year storm anymore. We had the 10th worst power outage for DTE 3 weeks after a 300-year storm. The Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner has actually had the Army Corps of Engineers in, and the Army Corps of Engineers is going around measuring the high water point in all of the floodplains. So the Red Run drain, where everything that is in our stormwater sewers, where it runs to, the Red Run drain is actually 2 feet above the 500-year flood elevation. So I mean, it was the Red Run drain was almost ready to spill over to Quinder and just start to become completely uncontained, I guess. Yeah. So I mean, this is it was really unprecedented, and it's these storms are becoming more common because as global warming occurs and the atmosphere retains more water, storms get bigger because you retain more water in the atmosphere, and when it comes out, there's more to come out, and it's flashier. So we've got all these systems in place that worked for what they were designed for, but we don't live in a climate that is what they were designed for. So, you know, we have to look at everything on the table to see how we can do this. And, you know, there's local steps we can take, but there's only so much we can do. And from a systems perspective, I don't know what the answer is to that yet. And I suspect that's a question a lot of people are going to be asking themselves. A renewed focus on green infrastructure is something that the state, that the DEQ, that the new Water Resources Commission are all focusing on, putting the water in the ground where it falls, rather than putting it in a pipe and flashing it away somewhere. You know, and that can be a more cost-effective way of managing stormwater runoff. You know, pervious pavement, some people are exploring with that, but this is something that we're going to be looking at, trying to figure out ways that we can do this, ways that we can implement these kinds of things in town cost-effectively, to try to mitigate some of this. So, you know, that's what we're doing, that's what we're thinking about as this, you know, as it all kind of settles in, and hopefully we get a miss tomorrow, because I sure don't want to deal with any more of this for a while. Did anybody have any further questions for the city on the storm update or the aftermath of the storm? Yeah, just want to make sure I'm not missing anything that people wanted to know about. Okay.
No, I just wanted to personally thank the city, you and the administration, for keeping citizens up to date, both through Facebook, through the website, and just the idea of more and more communication and making sure that that communication was available, and was available in enough ways that everybody should have had some access.
Yeah, you know, that brings me to another point. Out of this whole kind of, you know, the crisis is an opportunity, I guess. It focuses your mind. But the city, we have a Facebook page now. We have, you know, our own official site that we can communicate with residents. Go to facebook.com and you can type in /Pleasant Ridge MI. Pleasant Ridge, Michigan, just the abbreviation for MI. If you haven't already, just click on like, and you can get updates. We've been sending out all of our trash collection updates because, you know, there's uncertainty. Every week, one of the things that we were spending a lot of time on is, okay, when's trash coming this week? Because our poor trash haulers, God bless them, were, you know, some of the people working the hardest in all this, trying to catch up. If you saw some of the refuse stats that were generated, you know, you're talking about generating a third of a year's worth of trash in 2 weeks, and, you know, try to dispose of all that. And, you know, Tringali, who's our trash hauler, was damaging a bunch of their trucks because they were just throwing everything that we were putting out on the street, and their trucks can't handle it. That's why we have the bundling requirements, you know, no more than 4 foot lengths, and bundling your construction debris, because it'll break their trucks otherwise. And they were doing it, and they broke trucks, and some of the guys ended up in the hospital. And I mean, it was rough. It was a tough go for them. But anyways, trying to figure out where the garbage trucks were and communicate with residents in a timely manner like that. The Facebook page is one way of doing that. We have e-blasts. We have a pretty good sign-up rate for our e-blasts. If you haven't already, go to the city's website, cityofpleasantridge.org. You can sign up for e-blasts, and you can get these updates in a very timely manner. And we've been trying to update our website as well. So we're trying to do better. We're trying to be more communicative in a very timely fashion that way. Use the tools that are available to us. Speaking of the website, we have a millage information page on the website now with some fact sheets and information about the various ballot measures for Pleasant Ridge that are on the ballot in November. We have 4 items. 3 millage requests, which were approved by the City Commission, one of which is renewing the library millage for Huntington Woods. That would be a no net increase in your taxes, or just renew a millage we have. The second millage increase is the general operating millage. Jay's pulled up the website. This is the general operating millage. This is what would generate that $108,000 of new revenue for the city, and also go to reducing water bills, reducing the utility bills that you pay by moving some administrative costs from the water bills to the general fund, where they probably should be in the first place. The third one is a Parks and Recreation millage, which we have. We have a new Parks and Recreation master plan that calls for some improvements to both Gainsborough Park and the park behind the community center. And the Parks and Recreation millage would basically raise the funds to implement those plans, to put some money in our parks, to really continue, I guess, the good work that the foundation has started. The foundation's donation to Gainsborough Park is a result of that Parks and Recreation master plan. So they put some money up, and the city, we're asking the residents, do we want to finish the job? So you can get to that election information. And we also have a charter amendment that was citizen initiated dealing with marijuana. related offenses. So that's all on the homepage. Look on the left-hand side, there's a bar, it says November 4th millage information. We have some open houses planned for millage information if you would rather come talk to people. These are scheduled for October 15 and October 22nd. Hopefully you can make one of those at 6:30 p.m. Those going to be held at 4 Ridge at the Community Center. We will respect your time. It'll be basically an open forum where you can come talk to us at the beginning. There will be a brief presentation in the middle, similar to the one that I gave at the July meeting. And you can come and go as you please throughout there. So you can spend 10 minutes or 2 hours there if you really like us. We had the alley project. As you know, the DDA put up money to redo the alley between 696 and Devonshire. Our engineer, Roy Rose, who is here, they're working on the design plans. Our goal is to bid this fall to see if anyone can come do it. We're not entirely optimistic that anyone's going to have time on their schedule. The construction guys are busy these days. But we're going to take a shot. If that doesn't work, we'll rebid it for spring and do it in the spring. That's pretty much the major things going on around town. So I'm done. I'm going to turn it over to Scott because we just have a brief update on Cambridge on the construction.
Yes, a brief update on Cambridge. It's been a slow go with the weather and a lot of other things. A lot of underground work. You know, as we were talking about sewers, we had some additional that we had to do on Cambridge. So phase 1 is complete. All the driveways are open. All the sidewalks are open, and they have started doing the grading and will place forms on phase 2, which is from House 131 to Maple Field tomorrow or Thursday, depending on this next 100-year storm we're supposed to get tomorrow. So the idea is to pave that beginning of next week, get cures, come in and do sidewalks and driveways, and then that second phase will be complete. Phase 3 is the restoration, which includes sod and sprinkler irrigation systems. And then what I will call phase 4 will be tree replacement. We lost some trees that we had to remove because of construction, and with the storms we lost another 3 that had to come out. 2 of them just blew over. It was just blew over and fell. So this is one of the reasons why we have to do some of the removals we do for safety reasons. So we will have a robust planting that takes place on Cambridge, and the residents will be notified of that when that takes place. That may not take place this fall. It may wait till the spring. Sometimes we have better luck with people watering and taking care of the trees in the spring. In the winter, as it gets colder, the maples and elms sometimes don't do as well over the planting in the winter. The oaks, you can put them in November and they'll do well, but the maples and elms have a little bit of trouble with that. So that's where we are in Cambridge. We should be done here very shortly. Questions?
Questions first. That's a good one. Anyone? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we turn it back to other business, one thing I forgot to mention is we do have a vacancy on the Huntington Woods Library Board. Pleasant Ridge gets 2 slots. We do have one that's vacant now. With the approval of the contract, we need to fill that. So if anyone watching on TV at home, watching the movie here, is interested in serving on the Huntington Woods Library Board, fill out an application for boards and commissions. It's available on the homepage of our website down near the bottom. And the commission will be looking at making an appointment once we identify some candidates. So please do apply if you're interested.
Okay. Thank you. Other business?
Mr. Mayor, I have a quick item. Residents may be familiar with a committee that hasn't existed for the past 4 years called the Beautification Committee. It's an informal resident only of course, but it's not tied to the city in any way. It's very informal. It's just a group of residents passionate about the beautification of the city. And they would get together to award residents with, I think it was a tile and a framed picture of their home after taking nominations and deciding on a number of homes that would get the award. So I think the last time that was done was in 2010. So it's been a few years. And, obviously these were some tough years and probably not a lot of home improvement going on, or at least not as much as usual. So now I think we've seen a big upturn in that. Homes are selling faster and for more money. So it's a good time right now. It seemed like a really good time to bring this committee back. So a few residents are going to get together in the next couple of weeks, and we'll start kind of hammering out this process of how we want to narrow down the nominations, how do we want to take the nominations, and how do we want to select the ultimate awards to be presented. So that'll happen in the next couple of weeks. I think there's myself from the City Commission, there's Gene Russell from the Recreation Commission, David Laidlaw from Planning Commission DDA, Kathy Gillis from Historical, Jennifer Kieber, who was a former member of this beautification committee, as well as Kathy Gillis. I think that's all of us. So yeah, we'll be getting together and kind of getting this going again, hoping that it'll kind of rejuvenate some of that and recognize some of these improvements that have been taking place again so heavily in this beautiful city of ours. That's it.
Any other? Yeah.
Just real quick, I'd like to announce the book club for September will be The Unwinding, An Inner History of the New America by George Packer, and we'll be meeting on Monday, September 29th at 6:30 p.m. in Stevenson Park, if anyone would like to join us for that discussion.
Great. I wanted to bring up also the, on the 23rd, we have our monthly coffee with commissioners, and we've been able to spend 2 hours with a group of 40 people at one meeting, and last meeting with 3 people. We spent 2 wonderful hours, very productive. So we invite people. It's a real nice, nice atmosphere, good cookies, coffee, and we cover a lot of topics. And I wanted to finish. This is something that we've talked about this evening, but I think it needs to be said again. This city talks about its valuing diversity, that it's very important that we value everybody in this community. We passed a human rights ordinance to push that across and to make that very clear. And I think that it's very important that we recognize our Jewish residents as well. And I think we've done a disservice by scheduling another event, city-sponsored event. We did this a couple years ago, the foundation, and there was quite a bit of discussion about making sure we didn't do that again, and yet we have. And I think that we owe an apology. We have worked together with the Historical Commission to craft a statement for the Ridger that will accompany the advertisement to talk about the issue. And we have also now provided a detailed calendar of events, a detailed calendar for certainly the Jewish holidays, Christian holidays, and Ramadan, if nothing else. And we're open to others, but to make sure that that calendar is fresh in everyone's mind when any planning is being done in the future. And I think it's the least we can do, and I think it is something that this city is known for, takes pride in, and we need to walk the walk on all issues. So I just want to make that last statement. So, is there anything else? Do I have a motion to? Oh,
real quick.
Geez,
I'm sorry.
now,
We just found out from the library tonight. Huntington Woods Library was destroyed. The basement in the flood. I mean, it was a total loss for them. So Huntington Woods Library, the basement. So they had a number of events that they already had on their schedule. That they've been trying to accommodate. So on October 11th, they're actually bringing one of their events from Huntington Woods over to Pleasant Ridge. It's a Star Wars theme event. There's going to be characters there, some face painting, just a fun Star Wars day. So it's October 11th. I believe it starts at 11 a.m., but we're going to get it in the Ridger. That will be out at the end of September and get some more information out to people. But we thought I'd mention that real quick, as Huntington Woods is on that agenda.
Our residents who love to dress up, can they?
That's right. Be there.
Is the face painting only for kids? I've always wanted to be Darth Maul.
I don't know, so I guess you can come and find out.
Okay, I'll try. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Prerogative as an elected official.
Is there anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support?
Yes.
We are adjourned.